The Galactic Military Academy stood on a moon called Six. It was a cold place with silver buildings and long hallways. Every year, the best soldiers from hundreds of planets came here to train. They came to learn, to fight, and to prove themselves. Instructor had taught at the academy for 30 years. He was tall with blue skin and 4 arms. His people, were known for their strength and their sharp minds. Had seen many species come through his classroom. He thought he understood them all. But this year was different. This year, 3 humans had joined his class. Humans were new to the galaxy. They had only discovered space travel 50 years ago. Most species thought of them as young and weak. Their planet was small. Their bodies were soft. They had no claws, no armor, no venom. Many instructors wondered why the academy had even accepted them. Watched the 3 humans on their first day. There were 2 males and 1 female. The first male was named. He was average height with short black hair and calm eyes. He walked into the classroom without making a sound. The second male was called Wu. He was taller and had a scar on his left hand. He nodded politely to and took his seat. The female was named. She was small with her hair tied back. She smiled softly at the other cadets but said nothing. They sat in the back row. They did not speak to anyone. They did not introduce themselves. The classroom was loud that day. Cadets from different planets were showing off. A large reptile named stood up and beat his chest. His scales were thick and green. "I killed my first enemy when I was 12 cycles old," said proudly. "On my planet, we hunt to survive. We are born warriors." Other cadets cheered. A female with silver fur named Lyra spoke next. Her people were fast and deadly. "My kind can run faster than any ship at low altitude," Lyra said. "We have never lost a ground war." More cheers, more boasting. Each species tried to sound stronger than the last. Notice that the 3 humans did not join in. They sat quietly with their hands folded. They watched, they listened, but they said nothing. Days passed, then weeks. The pattern continued. In combat theory class, cadets debated battle tactics, argued loudly. Lyra challenged him. Others joined the fight with words, but Wu and stayed silent. They took notes. They nodded sometimes, but they never raised their hands. In physical training, the humans performed well, not the best but not the worst. They ran when told to run. They lifted when told to lift. They sparred when paired with partners, but even then they were quiet. No war cries, no boasts, no threats. Found this strange. Every species he knew had pride. Every species wanted others to know their strength. But these humans acted as if they had nothing to prove. One evening, walked past the training hall. He heard sounds inside. When he looked through the window, he saw the 3 humans practicing alone, was moving through fighting forms with perfect control. His movements were smooth like water. Wu was at the shooting range. Every shot hit the center. Every single one was practicing with a knife. She threw it at a target 20 meters away. It landed exactly where she aimed. They trained for 3 hours, watched for most of it. When they finished, they bowed to each other and left without a word. Began to pay closer attention. In class, he noticed small things. When made a mistake in his combat stance, saw it. His eyes moved to the error, then away. He said nothing. When Lyra miscalculated a tactical problem's fingers twitched. She had seen the answer, but she did not speak. The humans knew more than they showed, was sure of it now. He asked other instructors about them. Instructor Myra, who taught weapons, said the humans were skilled but never showed off. Instructor, who taught survival, said they completed every test without complaint. They worked hard. They followed orders. They helped other cadets when asked, but they never talked about themselves. "It is like they are hiding," Myra said. "Or waiting," added. Thought about this. What were they waiting for? He decided to look at their files. Every cadet had a file with their background and training history, but when tried to access the human files, he found them locked. Only the academy commander could open them. This was very unusual. Most files were open to all instructors. Why were the human files different? Curiosity grew stronger. One day in class, the cadets were discussing fear. Asked each species what they feared most. Said he feared nothing. Lyra said she feared being slow. Others talked about death or failure or shame. When looked at the humans, they remained silent. What about you? Asked directly. What do humans fear? Thought for a moment. His face showed no emotion. We fear ourselves, said quietly. The room went silent. No one understood what he meant, waited for him to explain but said nothing more. That night could not sleep. He kept thinking about those words. We fear ourselves. What did it mean? What were these humans hiding? He thought about their silence, their calm, their perfect control. Most young soldiers were eager to prove themselves. They wanted glory, they wanted recognition. But these three humans wanted nothing. They asked for nothing. They demanded nothing. They were like shadows in his classroom, present but unseen, watching but never speaking. Had trained thousands of soldiers. He had seen bravery and cowardice. He had seen strength and weakness, but he had never seen anything like these three humans. They scared him, not because of what they did, but because of what they did not do. In 30 years of teaching, had never been scared of a student. But as he lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, he felt something cold in his chest. These humans were different, and soon he would find out why. The answer would change everything he thought he knew about war. 3 months passed at the Galactic Military Academy. The cadets grew stronger. They learned new weapons. They studied battle plans. They trained their bodies and their minds. But instructor could not stop thinking about the humans. Woo and continued their silent ways. They came to class early. They left late. They never missed a lesson. They never failed a test. But they also never spoke unless asked a direct question. Even then, their answers were short. The other cadets had started to notice too. The big reptile often made jokes about them. Look at the humans, he would say loudly. So quiet, so boring, I think they are scared of us. His friends would laugh. Some cadets agreed with him. Humans were weak, they said. Humans had nothing to brag about. That was why they stayed silent. But not everyone agreed. Lyra, the silver-furred female, watched the humans with curious eyes. I am not so sure, she said once. Quiet does not always mean weak. Laughed at her. You give them too much credit. They are just frightened little creatures from a small planet. The humans heard these comments. They always heard, but they never responded. They just continued with their work. This bothered. As an instructor, he needed to understand his students. How could he teach soldiers if he did not know what they were capable of? The locked files frustrated him. The silence frustrated him even more. One day, decided to ask directly. The class was gathered in the large training hall. They had just finished a difficult exercise. Everyone was tired and sweaty. Cadets sat on the floor, drinking water and catching their breath. Walked to the center of the room. His 4 arms were crossed over his chest. Today, we will do something different, he said. I want each of you to share your combat experience. Tell us about your first battle. Tell us what you learned from it. The cadets looked interested. This was a chance to show off again. Went first, of course. He stood tall and proud. My first battle was against a wild beast on my home planet. It was twice my size. I killed it with my bare hands. I was only 12 cycles old. The cadets cheered, flexed his muscles and sat down with a smug smile. Lyra went next. She spoke about a border conflict on her world. She had been young, but she had fought bravely. Her speed had saved many lives. One by one, the cadets shared their stories. Some were impressive, some were exaggerated, but everyone had something to say. Everyone except the humans. When all the others had finished, turned to the back of the room. Woo and sat together as always. And what about you three? Asked. His voice was calm but firm. You have been here for 3 months. You have not said one word about your past. Do humans not have combat experience? The room went quiet. All eyes turned to the humans. Laughed? Probably not. What wars could humans fight? They are too soft. Some cadets laughed with him, but most waited to hear the answer. Looked at Wu, Wu looked at. A silent message passed between them, then looked back at. We have experience, said quietly. Leaned forward. Then why do you never speak of it? Was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was low. Because we do not find pride in it. The room became even quieter. No one understood. Frowned, explain. Shook his head slowly. With respect, instructor, some things are not meant to be shared like stories. Some things are not trophies. Stood up angrily. This is ridiculous. They are cowards. They have nothing to share because they have done nothing. Humans are weak. Everyone knows this. He walked toward the humans with his chest puffed out. I have killed more enemies than you have seen. I have won more battles than you can imagine. What have you done? Nothing. You sit there like scared children. Did not move. His face showed no emotion. You may believe what you wish, said calmly. Scales turned a darker green. This was a sign of anger in his species. You think you are better than us. You think your silence makes you special. No, said, I think nothing of the sort. Wu and remained still. Their eyes were fixed on, but they did not seem worried. They seemed ready. Notice this, the way their bodies had shifted slightly, the way their breathing had changed. It was subtle, but it was there. Enough, said firmly. He stepped between and the humans. Return to your seat. Glared at the humans for another moment, then walked away with a grunt. The class ended shortly after, but the tension remained. That night sat in his office thinking. The humans' response bothered him. We do not find pride in it. What did that mean? Every soldier took pride in their victories. Every warrior wanted recognition for their achievements. Unless their achievements were too dark to celebrate. Had seen this before, but only in the oldest and most hardened soldiers, the ones who had seen too much, the ones who had done things that haunted them. But Wu and were young. They could not be more than 25 Earth years old. What could they have possibly experienced? The next day went to the academy commander. Her name was Sora, and she was a tall woman with silver hair. She had led the academy for 50 years. I need to see the human files, said. Sora looked at him with wise old eyes. Why? Because I am their instructor. I need to understand them to teach them properly. Sora was quiet for a moment, then she shook her head. Those files are sealed for a reason. What reason? Sora stood and walked to her window. She looked out at the training grounds below, could see the cadets running drills in the distance. When the humans first applied to this academy, Sora said, I thought it was a joke. Their species is so young, so inexperienced with galactic matters. I was going to reject them. What changed your mind? Sora turned to face him. Her expression was strange. It was the same look had seen on soldiers who had witnessed something terrible. I read their combat records, Sora said quietly. All of them from their planet's history. Waited. I have studied wars across 1,000 worlds, Sora continued. I have seen cruelty and violence beyond imagination, but I have never seen anything like what humans do to each other. Felt a chill run through his body. What do you mean? Sora walked back to her desk. She picked up a small data chip and held it up. This contains the military history of Earth, every war, every battle, every weapon they have created. She held it out too. Read it, she said. Then you will understand why those three sit quietly in your class, and you will understand why their silence is not weakness. She paused and looked him in the eyes. It is mercy. Took the data chip with trembling hands. He did not know what he would find, but he knew somehow that nothing would ever be the same. Did not sleep that night. He sat in his room with the data chip Sora had given him. He read through the files for hours. With each page, his horror grew deeper. The humans called it history. It looked like madness. Wars that lasted decades, wars that killed millions, weapons that could destroy entire cities in seconds. Humans had invented ways to kill each other that no other species had ever imagined. Poison gas, nuclear fire, machines designed only for death. And they had used these weapons on themselves, not on alien enemies, on each other. Read about something called the World Wars. He read about trenches filled with dead bodies. He read about bombs that burned the sky. He read about soldiers who kept fighting even when all hope was gone. He read about a place called Stalingrad, where humans fought in frozen ruins for months, eating rats to survive. He read about a beach called Normandy, where thousands of young men ran into gunfire knowing they would die. He read until his eyes hurt, then he read some more. When morning came, he understood why it said humans feared themselves. He understood why Smile seemed sad sometimes. He understood why Wu had that scar on his hand. Humans were not weak. They were the most dangerous species had ever encountered, and the most dangerous thing about them was not their strength. It was their ability to endure. When a class that day with new eyes, he watched the three humans sitting in their usual spot. He saw them differently now. These were not quiet, shy students. These were survivors of a world that had been at war for its entire existence. The class proceeded as normal, but's mind was elsewhere. Then the alarm started. Red lights flashed across the ceiling. A loud siren filled the hallway. This was not a drill alarm. This was the real emergency signal. His communicator crackled. The voice of Commander Sora came through, tense and urgent. All instructors, we have a breach. Unknown hostile forces have entered the academy. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Protect the cadets and get them to safety zones. The cadets jumped to their feet. Fear spread across their faces. They had trained for combat, but most had never faced real danger before. Roared in confusion, what is happening? Lyra's ears flattened against her head. Are we under attack? Raised his forearms to calm them. Listen to me. Follow the emergency protocol. We move to safety zone 7. Stay together. Stay calm. He started leading them toward the door, but before they reached it, the wall exploded. Dust and debris flew everywhere. Cadets screamed and fell to the ground. Through the hole in the wall, armed figures poured in. They wore black armor and carried plasma rifles. Their faces were hidden behind helmets. Raiders, the worst kind. They attacked academies to capture young soldiers and sell them as slaves. Get down, shouted. He grabbed the nearest cadets and pulled them behind cover. The raiders opened fire. Energy blasts burned the air. One cadet was hit in the shoulder and fell with a cry of pain. Counted the enemies. 10. No, 12, too many for him to fight alone. The cadets were not ready for this. They had no weapons, they had no armor. They were going to die. Then noticed something. The three humans were not panicking. While everyone else scrambled for cover, Wu and moved with purpose. Grabbed a fallen piece of metal and tested its weight. Wu picked up a broken pipe, found a shard of glass and wrapped one end with a strip of her sleeve. They moved without speaking. They did not need words. They communicated with glances and small gestures. Looked at, his eyes were cold and focused. Keep them safe, he said. We will handle this. Before could respond, the three humans moved. Went first. He ran low and fast, using debris as cover. A raider spotted him and raised his rifle, but was already there. He drove the metal piece into the gap between the raider's helmet and armor. The raider fell without a sound. Wu came from the left. He swung the pipe with brutal efficiency. The first raider's weapon went flying. The second swing crushed his helmet. Wu caught the falling rifle and fired twice. 2 more raiders dropped. Was a ghost. She slipped between enemies like smoke. Her glass blade found throats and joints. Raiders fell before they knew she was there. One turned to face her, but she was already behind him. He collapsed with a quiet gasp. The whole thing took less than 30 seconds. 12 raiders, 3 humans, 12 dead bodies on the ground. Stood frozen. He had seen combat before. He had fought in wars, but he had never seen anything like this. The other cadets stared in shock. His mouth hung open. Lyra's eyes were wide with disbelief. Turned back to the group. He was not even breathing hard. "More are coming," he said calmly. "We need to move." Finally found his voice. How did you?" Later said, her voice was gentle but firm. "Right now, we need to get everyone to safety." Wu tossed a captured rifle to. "Can you shoot?" Nodded slowly. "Good, stay in the middle, protect the wounded, we will clear the path." The 3 humans took position around the group. At the front, on the left, Wu on the right. They moved like one unit, like they had done this 1,000 times before. Because they had. The group moved through the hallways. Raiders appeared again and again. Each time the humans dealt with them, they were efficient and silent. No wasted movements, no hesitation. Watched fight up close. Every strike was calculated. Every step had purpose. He did not fight with rage or pride. He fought like it was a job, something he had done so many times it had become routine. Tried to help at one point. He charged at a raider with a roar. The raider raised his weapon but was faster. She took the raider down before even reached him. Stared at her. "I could have handled him." Shook her head. "You would have been shot." His finger was on the trigger. She moved on without another word. They reached Safety Zone 7 after 15 minutes. Other groups were already there. The Academy's security forces had contained the remaining raiders. The attack was over. Commander Sora met them at the entrance. She saw the 3 humans, covered in dust and blood. She saw the captured weapons they carried. She nodded once. "I see you met real combat." Set down his rifle. His face was still calm. It was not ideal, too many civilians, too little cover. "You saved them all," Sora said. Shook his head. "We did what was necessary." He walked past her into the safety zone. Wu and followed without a word. The other cadets watched them go. No one spoke. No one joked. No one boasted. They had just seen what humans could really do. And they would never forget it. The attack on the Academy was over, but its effects remained. 23 raiders had breached the walls. 23 raiders were now dead or captured. The Academy had survived. But the cadets had changed. In the days that followed, no one could stop talking about what had happened. Specifically, about what the humans had done. "Did you see them?" one cadet whispered to another. "They moved like machines." "I heard they killed 12 raiders in 30 seconds, another said, "without any weapons. They made our best fighters look like children." The stories spread quickly. They grew larger with each telling, but even the truth was impressive enough. Was unusually quiet. He had been so proud of his strength, so confident in his abilities, but he had frozen during the attack. He had watched 3 small humans do what he could not. Lyra found him sitting alone one evening. "You are thinking about them," she said. Nodded slowly. "I have trained my whole life. I thought I was ready for anything, but when those raiders came through the wall, I did not know what to do." "Neither did I," Lyra admitted. "But they did," said. "The humans, they did not hesitate, not even for a moment. It was like they had been waiting for it." Lyra thought about this. Maybe they were. Instructor had similar thoughts. After the attack, he went back to the files Sora had given him. He read them again, more carefully this time. He cross-referenced them with the personal records of Wu and what he found made him sit down heavily. Had served in something called Special Forces on Earth. He had completed over 50 missions in hostile territories. He had survived situations that would have killed most soldiers 10 times over. Wu was a sniper. His record showed over 200 confirmed kills. He had fought in mountain warfare, desert warfare, and urban warfare. He had operated alone behind enemy lines for months at a time. Was listed as Covert Operations Specialist. Her file was mostly classified, but what could read suggested she had done things that governments did not want recorded. She had been trained to kill quietly and disappear without trace. These were not students. These were weapons wearing human skin. Took his findings to Commander Sora. "I read their files," he said. "All of them. Why did you send soldiers like this to a training academy?" Sora looked tired. The attack had been hard on everyone. "I did not send them. They asked to come." "Why?" Sora walked to her window again. It was her habit when thinking about difficult things. Because they wanted to learn something different. Did not understand. They have nothing to learn from us. They are better than any instructor here. Not at combat, Sora agreed, but there are other things. She turned to face him. "Do you know what they asked me when they applied? They asked if we could teach them how to live without war." Was silent. "Humans have been fighting since they first walked on 2 legs, Sora continued. They have never known peace, not real peace. Every generation has its war. Every century has its horror. They have become masters of violence out of pure necessity." She sat down at her desk. "But they do not want to be this way. At least these 3 do not. They came here hopping to find another path." Thought about this for a long time. He thought about calm face, about Wu's steady hands, about sad smile. They were killers, but they did not want to be. A few days later called a special assembly. All the cadets gathered in the main hall. The instructors stood along the walls. Commander Sora watched from a balcony above. Stood at the center. He had requested permission to share certain information. Sora had agreed. "Many of you have questions about what happened during the attack," began. "Specifically, about the performance of our 3 human cadets." The room was very quiet. Everyone was listening. "I have reviewed their combat records. With Commander Sora's permission, I will share some of what I learned." He activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the air above his head. They showed Earth, beautiful and blue but marked with scars. "This is the human," said. "It looks peaceful from space, but it is not." New images appeared. Battles, explosions, cities in flames. Humans have been at war with themselves for over 10,000 years. They have invented weapons capable of ending all life on their planet. They have come close to destroying themselves multiple times. The cadets watched in growing horror, even looked disturbed. "The 3 humans among you are veterans of these conflicts. Cadet has completed over 50 special operations missions. Cadet Wu has over 200 confirmed combat eliminations. Cadet has served in covert operations that I am not permitted to describe." Murmurs spread through the crowd. They did not share these things because they are not proud of them. They do not see their skills as achievements. They see them as survival. Paused. He wanted the next words to sink in. "On Earth, soldiers do not boast about their victories. The ones who have seen the most death are often the quietest, because they understand something that many of you do not." He looked around the room, at Lyra, at all the young faces watching him. War is not glory. War is not honor. War is the failure of every other option. And those who are truly good at it wish more than anything that they did not have to be. The room was completely silent. Turned off the display. "I tell you this not to frighten you. I tell you this so you will understand. The next time you see someone sitting quietly, not bragging about their strength, consider that they might have seen things you cannot imagine. Consider that their silence is not weakness." He looked toward the back of the room. Wu and sat in their usual spot. Their faces showed no emotion. Consider that they might be protecting you from what they know. The assembly ended. Cadets filed out slowly, speaking in hushed voices. Many looked at the humans with new eyes, some with fear, some with respect, some with both. Approached before leaving, the big reptile stood awkwardly, struggling to find words. I said many foolish things, finally said. I was wrong about you, about all of you. Looked up at him. For the first time his expression softened slightly. You did not know. I should have said. A true warrior recognizes another. I was too blind with pride to see. Stood and extended his hand. It was a human gesture of respect. Then let us start again. Took his hand carefully. His massive claws could have crushed it, but he held it gently. I am, he said, and I would be honored to learn from you. His lips curved slightly, not quite a smile but close. I am, and perhaps we can learn from each other. From the balcony above, Commander Sora watched this exchange. She allowed herself a small smile. The humans had come to learn how to live without war, but perhaps they would also teach something to everyone else. Something about humility, something about the true cost of strength. Something about the heavy burden of being very, very good at violence. 6 months had passed since the attack on the Galactic Military Academy. The damaged walls had been repaired. New security systems had been installed. Life had returned to normal. But everything was different now. The 3 humans were no longer strangers at the back of the classroom. They were respected members of the cadet group, not because of their combat skills, though those were impressive, but because of who they were. Had started teaching extra combat classes in the evenings. Cadets who wanted to improve their close-quarters fighting came to learn from him. He taught them not just techniques, but philosophy. Fighting is the last option, would say. A good warrior knows how to win without fighting. When you must fight, end it quickly, and never enjoy it. Wu helped the academy upgrade its shooting range. He designed new training programs that challenged even the best marksmen, but he also taught patience and calm. The best shot is the one you never have to take, Wu often said. But if you must take it, be sure, be calm, and never hesitate. Worked with the academy's medical team. Her knowledge of anatomy had a dark origin, but she used it to save lives now instead of taking them. She taught cadets about battlefield medicine and how to help the wounded. In war, everyone bleeds the same, would say. Learn to stop the bleeding, even for your enemies. Mercy is not weakness, it is strength. The other cadets listened to them differently now, had become one of his best students. The big reptile had lost his arrogance. He had gained something better, humility. Lyra often sat with during meals. They had become friends. Lyra had once been proud of her speed. Now she understood that speed meant nothing without wisdom to guide it. Instructor watched these changes with quiet satisfaction. The humans had transformed his classroom without even trying. Their presence had taught everyone a lesson that no textbook could provide. One evening, found alone on the academy rooftop, the human was sitting on the edge, looking up at the stars, approached and sat beside him. May I join you? Asked. Nodded, of course. They sat in silence for a while. The night sky of 6 was beautiful. Thousands of stars glittered above them. Somewhere out there was Earth, small and far away. You have changed things here, said finally. I hope you know that. Shrugged slightly. We did not try to change anything. We just tried to be helpful. That is what changed things. Looked at the human's profile. Before you came, this academy was about pride, about strength, about being better than others. Now it is about something more. What? Purpose, said, understanding why we fight, not just how. Was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was thoughtful. On Earth, we have a saying, those who have seen war want peace the most. I believe I understand that now, said. Looked at him. Do you know why we really came here, instructor? Shook his head. We came because we were tired. voice was soft. Tired of fighting, tired of killing, tired of watching friends die. We had been soldiers for so long that we forgot how to be anything else. He looked back at the stars. We thought maybe here, far from Earth, we could find another way. We could learn to be something more than weapons. Felt a weight in those words. He thought about everything the humans had endured, the endless wars of the violence that had shaped their entire civilization. "Have you found what you were looking for?" asked. Considered the question. "I think so, not completely, but we are closer than before." He smiled then, a real smile, the first had ever seen from him. "The other cadets help us more than they know," said. "They remind us that not everything is about survival. Sometimes life can be about friendship, about learning, about growing." Nodded slowly. "And you remind them that peace is precious, that it must be protected by those who understand its value." "Perhaps that is the exchange," agreed. "We teach them about darkness, they teach us about light." A month later, the year ended. It was time for the final evaluations. The cadets gathered in the Great Hall one last time. Commander Sora stood at the podium. She looked out at the young soldiers who had grown so much over the past year. "This has been an unusual year," Sora began. "We faced challenges that tested all of us. We learned lessons that no textbook could teach, and we grew in ways we did not expect." She paused and looked at the three humans. "When cadets Wu and arrived, many of you wondered why they never spoke of their past, why they sat quietly while others boasted. Some of you thought they were weak." A few cadets shifted uncomfortably, looked at the floor. "Now you understand. Their silence was not weakness. It was wisdom. They had seen enough violence to last 100 lifetimes. They chose silence because they had nothing left to prove." Sora stepped down from the podium and walked toward the human cadets. The hall was completely still. "I asked you once why you wanted to come here," Sora said to them. "You said you wanted to learn how to live without war." Nodded. "Have you learned?" Sora asked. Looked at Wu and then he looked around the room at all the cadets who had become their friends, at who had learned humility, at Lyra who had learned wisdom, at who had learned to see beyond the surface. "We have learned that peace is not the absence of war," said slowly. "It is the presence of understanding, of connection, of purpose beyond survival." He stood up, Wu and stood with him. "We came here as soldiers trying to escape what we were. We leave as something more, not just warriors but teachers, friends, members of something larger than ourselves." Spoke next. Her voice was gentle but clear. "Those who have truly fought do not need to speak of it, because they know that true strength is not in violence, it is in choosing when not to use it." Wu finished the thought. "The greatest victory is the battle that never happens. The greatest warrior is the one who makes enemies into friends." Commander Sora smiled. It was a rare expression on her weathered face. "Well said," she murmured. "Very well said indeed." The graduation ceremony continued. Medals were given. Speeches were made. But everyone knew that the true lesson of this year had already been spoken. The humans had come to the academy as mysterious strangers. They left as beloved brothers and sisters. Their silence had taught more than any lecture ever could. After the ceremony, the cadets gathered outside for one last time. Species that had once mocked each other now embraced. Rivals had become allies. Found in the crowd, the big reptile's eyes were wet. "I will miss you, human," said gruffly. Clasped his shoulder. "And I will miss you, friend. Remember what you learned here. Strength without wisdom is nothing. Use your power to protect, not to dominate." Nodded firmly. "I will, I promise." As the sun set on 6, the graduates went their separate ways. To new assignments, to new challenges, to a galaxy that was a little better because of what they had learned. Wu and boarded their transport ship together. They were going home, back to Earth, back to the world that had shaped them into weapons. But they were different now. They had found what they were looking for, not an escape from their past, but a purpose for their future. The ship rose into the sky. Through the window, they could see the academy growing smaller below them, the place where they had finally found peace. Looked at her companions. "Do you think we made a difference?" Wu nodded. "I know we did." Watched the stars appear as they left the atmosphere. His face was calm as always, but there was something new in his eyes. "Hoping." "The galaxy asked why we sat quietly," he said softly. "Now they understand. We were not afraid to speak. We were waiting for something worth saying." The ship jumped to hyperspace. Behind them, a generation of soldiers carried new wisdom into the universe. The silence of 3 humans had changed everything. And the galaxy would never forget the lesson they taught, that true power lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the choice not to.